Hello and welcome to another episode of Mompreneurs Making Moves. And if you've ever tried to answer emails with a toddler pulling out your sleeve, or you wondered how to grow your business while chasing your dreams and probably your kids, then you're in the right place. Because every week we get real about wins, losses, and all the magical moments in between. And we share practical tips, honest stories, and the laughs that keep us going. So let's go ahead and get started. Welcome back to another episode of Mompreneurs Making Moves. I'm your host, Mariah Murdoch. And if you are a busy business owner and you're trying to work on your business, not just in your business, and you're in the day-to-day grind and you're like, hey, look, I need help, then we need to talk because my company, Infinite Exec, has your perfect executive assistant who will get you just flying into the sunset for 2026, so you don't have to be in the grind again, doing it all by yourself, feeling it overwhelmed. You don't have to, and you've probably worked hard enough. You deserve to have some help. So let's chat if that's the case. But for today's episode, we have the lovely Danae Gabriel. She is the CEO and co-founder of Superbloom Talent, and that is a firm dedicated to human-centered, equitable hiring and people operations as well. So look, if you're like, hey, I am overwhelmed, it is the beginning of the year, I need help, talk to either one of us. We'll get you set up. We'll make sure that you have what you need. One of the things I absolutely love about our guest today is that her experience gives her a holistic, real-world understanding of what growing companies really need. And right now she helps small businesses scale intentionally and sustainably by shifting from reactive to proactive recruiting in HR, and by building the people systems that set employees and founders up for long-term success. She's a mom of two, and she leads with empathy, clarity, and heart, helping founders thrive without burnout. So I'm super excited to get into this today. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, of course. No, we're super excited. And I think it's interesting because we both do similar types of work.
Mhm.
I focus more on the admin piece and then
Yep.
some operations, but mostly admin.
Yep.
And then I know you focus on operations and HR, which is a little
Yep.
bit different. So we're kind of similar, but not quite. Um,
Definitely.
One thing I would love, just because we're
Mhm.
coming out of the holidays and into January 2026, what would you say is just a piece of advice you have for moms who are navigating their businesses starting in the new year?
Yes. I would say the biggest thing for me is plan. Take the time, set the time aside. I always say you're never too small to put a plan in place. I think it's super important, even as a solo mompreneur, to set strategy time aside to be able to map out what you want the next 6 to 12 months to look like, not just in your business, but also personal life. So that's something I'm personally doing right now and kind of trying to figure out like, how do I make this messy life we all have work better for me and for my family?
Okay, so quick question. This is one I have to
Yeah.
ask, okay, because it's been
Yeah.
burning on my mind, and I'm sorry I'm kind of going off script here.
No, we're good.
But I have to know, as a new mom myself,
Mhm.
there's two pieces of advice I've gotten, and they don't match. Okay, there's
Mm.
this one idea that you're supposed to put yourself first, because if you
Mm.
can't put your own oxygen mask on, how are you going to help everybody else? There's
Yeah.
that one idea. But then there's this other idea of, well, I do things for myself, but I don't do it for everybody. So, which is right? Am I supposed to put
Yes.
myself first? Or am I supposed to say, no, everyone else is first, but I take care of myself so I can keep doing the thing? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure I'm supposed to see this motherhood thing.
Yes. So I would say for me, I'm actually like doing a big focus on this right now. So my just to give you a quick idea of where my head's at right now. My 10-month-old has had some challenges, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we kind of get into the conversation. But going into 2026, I knew I needed to actually have space for myself. So I had been having my son here with me for the last 10 months. He had been with a nanny part time, and then I had my mom come and help a couple days a week. But I realized that through that, while I was prioritizing his health and his, wellness, mine had taken a back seat. And so going into 2026, I'm actually going to be focused on that first piece of making sure that I'm good, making sure my cup is filled up more often than not so that I can pour that into my family. Because when you're trying to build a business and have a family, if you are putting yourself on the back burner, like, you will burn out over and over, and you're going to go through this cycle that you just can't get out of. And so I would say the first, easier said than done, because obviously we want to jump and help the people around us, but focus on yourself, make sure you have some wellness things in, whether that's taking a walk or I have a cycle bike that I jump on every now and then if I'm like, I need some, endorphins. So that is my take on it.
Yeah, no, that's very helpful. And yeah, I think it's a little bit of both, I guess, right? Because we have to take care of ourselves. We have to. We have to find a way.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, everybody else needs us. Literally,
All
everybody
the
else.
time.
Everybody else. Yes.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's get into, we're going to go deep from the beginning.
Yep.
One of the things that we discussed as we were preparing for this episode was you mentioned having a difficult pregnancy coinciding with the growth of Superbloom Talent.
Mm-hmm.
So can you share the core lesson about sustainable leadership that only an experience like that could teach you? Talk to us about that. Like, what was going on and what were you learning? What did you have to grow through in that experience?
Yeah, so very tough situation, not for just myself, but for my business partner as well. She was there with me day in and day out through the pregnancy, as I'd have weekly appointments. And so basically what was going on is, if you're familiar with IUGR, it's intrauterine growth restriction. So it's basically when a baby isn't growing at the appropriate speed, when you compare it to their gestational age. So when I got to my 20-week anatomy scan, went in for my normal appointment, doctor's like, oh, something's not looking right here. We need to send you to a specialist. Got sent to a specialist. They measured everything. He was about, like, I think maybe measuring about 3 weeks behind at that point. So they were like, we're going to have weekly appointments. I had weekly appointments, weekly sonograms. So I saw my baby a lot of times during my pregnancy. And I was required to go in weekly so that they could check various things like blood flow and all of that good stuff. So it was extremely, extremely difficult for me. And my business partner, luckily, I had someone to lean on there for me. But what it made me realize is, one, I'm very much a control person. So as you can imagine, having a pregnancy like that, I thought, my first one was super smooth. So I thought this one would be smooth as well, and it wasn't. And so it was me realizing, like, at this point in my life, this is the priority. My business is also a priority, but right now that comes second, right? And so my body forced me to slow down. And honestly, I think it's probably the best thing that's happened to our business, because I then realized, oh, I really need to be building this business for when I'm like 30% of my full self, rather than the 110% I give on a daily basis. That way, when I do need to pull back and give the 30 to 50% that I can give on some days, the business still runs without me. And so that was the biggest thing I found, was I had all these processes and ideas and thoughts in my head that I hadn't written down. My business partner's like, hey, I don't even know how to, send an invoice. And I'm like, oh, let me document all this. So that was the biggest thing for me, was I need to design systems so that the business still operates and works when I can't. So prioritizing, delegating, really making sure that I was able to let go of the reins so that the business could still be successful even during the tougher seasons of life. And so, yes, very emotional. Everything ended up okay, and he's healthy, but it's been a challenging road.
Yeah, no, I love that, because we do think that we have to show up 110% of the time. And when we're first starting the business and it's that daily grind and we get used to it, then we get used to the adrenaline rush and if I'm not busy, then things aren't getting done.
Right.
Right. And that's so good. I love that idea of make sure it's enough to give 30 to 50%, but up to 30%, even and then that's it. So that when you do need to live, you can. I love that, because that resonates. I think right now in my business, I'm probably doing 80%, even though I'm an executive assistant agency. I still am doing quite a bit and I'm trying to learn. I took 2 months off from maternity leave earlier
Yeah.
this year. Had my baby boy early this year.
Yeah.
He's 8 months now, so we had ours not too far apart.
Close.
And
Yeah.
he's my first.
Okay.
And yeah, I took 2 months off and then I came right back in and it's been nothing but like flooding me ever since. And I've been trying to catch my breath and I had to transition clients and I had to learn how to
Hmm.
delegate some more things, but it's
Yeah.
not easy. Even for someone who owns an executive assistant agency where we preach delegation, it is
Yep.
not easy to do.
Hmm.
Although I do
Yeah.
it, it's not easy. And like you're saying, like I'm very similar. Control, I
Yeah.
need to know things are getting done a certain way to the way that, the time that they're
Hmm.
needing to get done and all the things. So, what would you say to that entrepreneur or a mompreneur who is like, no, I seriously do have to do it or it's not going to be done right. But I want to delegate, but I don't trust people. What would you say to that mom?
Usually, when that's being said, there's more work that can be done on the founder's end or the business owner's end. So, a lot of times when we say we don't trust someone to do something the way we would, it's usually because one, we've never documented the way we do it. And so there's nothing for someone to reference. And so my first thing would be like, okay, so let's talk through, what your day to day looks like and what you're actually executing. And then let's document how you would go about doing that so that everyone on your team has, a way to reference the way, let's say, Danae would do something. That's one of the biggest things I learned was I had to document a lot of the stuff. I'd get frustrated because I'm like to my business partner, Mackenzie, uh, whatever it was. I'm like, oh, you're supposed to do it this way. And she's like, well, I didn't know, and it's like, yeah, she didn't because I had never taught her or I had never given her documentation showing that. So I'd say that. And then also like making sure that the people that you hire, I always try to hire people who are smarter or better than me at whatever that given subject is that they're going to be executing on. So making sure that you're hiring the right people, because if you're hiring the right people and you have the systems in place, you all you have to do is then verify, right? You trust but verify that they're actually doing it. So that would be my biggest advice of those two pieces.
No, I love that. I'm actually hiring right now for my agency, just a little bit,
Yeah.
making sure our team is ready for the clients we're getting in 2026. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think that is something that we don't often think of when we're thinking about hiring is find people who are better than you even. And then just let them run
Yeah.
it, but be there,
Yeah.
be present, check in. Um, oh wait, if I'm gonna play devil's advocate here, I would say, okay,
Yeah.
document my processes. I don't have time and I don't have bandwidth. So
Mhm.
now what?
You've got to make time, or you've got to be willing to invest the money into hiring someone to help you with that. There's a ton of AI systems now. Like I before, when I work with a client, if there's things that I see where they're like, "Well, we need to hire someone for this," and it's usually like an admin, where I'm like, "We already have an executive assistant, but now you're just trying to bring an admin in for all these tasks. Have you looked at how software and systems can do that now?" And so there's a lot of ways that you can automate some stuff. Um, Especially like if you're, I don't know, an example would be like to have a system like this that's recording us, put a transcript together of a conversation that you had with one of your employees going over a various task and then make it into an SOP. So it doesn't have to be you sitting down and actually writing it out. And, it can be through the daily activities that you're already doing. So I think that would be my biggest advice is like you've got to make time or you've got to be willing to invest in it because that's really the only way you're going to scale.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And then really quick question before we get back to the main convo.
Yeah.
Um, do you measure your success as a businesswoman based
Mhm.
on how much money you make?
Mhm.
And if not, then how are you redefining success?
Yeah. So question is, do I measure it that way? I would say I used to. I think that I think we all kind of grow up in an environment in a society where money equals success. And for me, as a mom of two now, that's changed quite a bit. And so when I look at, for example, this year's success that we've had as a business, I'm not just looking at our revenue, I'm looking at, are our clients happy? Have we found a solution that is actually meeting my client's needs? And if not, what pieces are missing? What are other things? I think the biggest piece that I look at is like, how are our clients feeling about the work we're doing? And then how does my team feel? And so that could be, me and Mackenzie. We have some contractors that work with us. So just making sure that everyone is feeling happy and supported. And then that obviously comes back to yourself as well. And how do you feel about the business you're creating? You'll probably talk a little bit more about it, but we are very big on the values we stand by. And so if I can look back at the decisions I made in 2025 and say, yes, these decisions were aligned with our values, I see that as a successful business. The revenue will follow if my clients are happy and we're living our values. That's the way I see it, at least.
No, that is powerful. And yeah, that's actually one of the things too that makes what the work I do different from other executive assistants. I really try to hone in on customized support based on the client's values and energy. So that absolutely resonates. And then in doing so, sometimes I get lost in my own, I'm like, wait, what am I trying to do? And then I have to learn to get grounded again. And so, yeah, no, but that's very helpful. Success, think about how your clients are feeling, how their support is going, how your team is feeling, how you're feeling. Obviously, revenue helps as a good marker, but
of course.
And I think I would also add to that, like time freedom for me, at least as the owner of the business that I am, CEO. Like I need to know that I'm getting X amount of time or flexibility during the week. I have to, and because it's now a non-negotiable. Because my son does not go to daycare. He's with us 24/7, and we tag team. And thankfully, my husband and I both work from home. But I mean, it's a daily thing. Yeah. And I definitely don't plan on taking him to daycare. So so time freedom. It's a non-negotiable now.
It is.
But getting food on the table is as well. So that's for sure. Yeah, I definitely
flexibility is
that idea. Yeah.
I do love that.
Superbloom Talent focuses on human-centered and equitable hiring. How does that, how do you bring that experience as a mompreneur and with recruiting for HR and consulting, like how do you keep that alive for your clients, that human-centeredness and equitable? Why is that important to you?
Yeah. So I think a couple things I want to kind of bring up here with this question is, one, I didn't always used to be like this. So it really did take me becoming a mom and understanding the nuances that go into motherhood and what it takes. I've led teams before I was a mom, and I feel like I look back sometimes and I cringe at some of the things I said to other mothers in the workplace about them needing to show up in the office or whatever it is. And I'm just like, oh, it's just that traditional work style that we are so used to. And so I think the biggest thing is, I kind of already said it, but the traditional work environment is pretty unforgiving to people that have other life things going on. And so one of the big things for me, as I am a mixed Black woman, and that is a huge, being a Black woman in the workforce in a traditional corporate environment was its own thing. And so that's why I became so super conscious and super aware of wanting to bring the equitable hiring practices and people operations to my clients, because I want to start when they're smaller before they start to build all these bad habits. And so, yes, it's about really seeing the whole human, right? If their background in their video isn't perfect, or you see a little bit of clutter or whatever it might be, but they showed up to the interview on time, they were, engaging, they were all these things, and they have the skill set they need to do the job, what their background looks like shouldn't dictate whether or not they get the job. And so those are some of the conversations I actually actively have with clients of I'm going to challenge you on that, because you don't know what someone's home life is like. You don't know what they're going through. What you do know is how they showed up in the interview, if they were engaging and they did their research and they asked thoughtful questions, and what skill set they bring to the table, right? They're coming with, I wouldn't say to a client to just consider someone just because of them being a diverse or having a different background. We're talking about people who have the skill set that they need to do the job, but may be overlooked for, because of unconscious biases. And so that's what I'm talking about when I'm bringing in equitable hiring practices. And it's just in everything we do. So we start with our job description. We make sure that there isn't like the bro language in there that's only going to attract really, really young men who are, straight out of college. So there's a lot of nuances that go into it. But I hope that answered your question. It's just really making sure we're not jumping to conclusions about people, giving people a true shot to be able to show what they can do, and thinking about things a little bit differently than we had in the past.
Yeah, no, for sure. I didn't even realize how many biases we do have. Like when you were talking about some of them just now, it was like, wow,
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't even think about that.
Because, right, it
But
could be a parent with messy background. It could be someone who's, I don't know, there could be so many different things going on that we just don't know about, that we jump to conclusions about, and it affects our decision making.
yeah, absolutely. And that reminds me of something that I hear at a networking event that I go to often with a group here locally,
Mhm.
but it is relationship arrogance. They say be careful about relationship arrogance, meaning if someone doesn't seem to provide immediate value to
Mm,
you, don't just write them off immediately, right? And it's been interesting because in that group I've met multimillionaires that I would have never knew they were multimillionaires, but I just treated them like a person because that's what we do. Respect is
yep.
a core value and kindness. And
Yeah.
so then you find out they have all these connections, and it's like, wow, I didn't even know we could, have, whether it's just a great relationship or being able to connect me with other people that could be beneficial to my business. Just treating people like
100%.
people and not writing them off so quickly due to bias or your own conclusions. That
Yeah.
really is something that translates to be valuable and just
Yes.
downright important as a human. So,
Agreed. Let's just be nice.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So one thing you mentioned is you help small businesses scale intentionally with people systems. And I say that
Hmm.
because I don't know what that means. And I'm
Yeah.
curious, um, you know, what does people systems mean? And then what
Mhm.
is a critical single system that you would say, hey, you
Mhm.
definitely need this no matter what?
Yeah. When I think of people systems, it's really anything in your business that is allowing you and your team to operate at a higher capacity. And so that can be I would put performance reviews in that category, performance management, how you have coaching conversations. I would put any of your SOPs too, that are like HR SOPs that are related to the people. So any policies, anything that will dictate the culture and the way that your organization operates, is what I would categorize as a people system. And so when it comes to, did you ask about like someone who doesn't have any employees right now? Was that the question?
No, I asked more along the lines of what is one critical system that
Yeah.
you would say is needed for
Yeah.
long sustainability, yeah, long term.
Performance management. You need a performance management system. I think that's one that people often miss. And what that could look like is something super simple, but making sure you're doing your goal setting, right? And that it's cascaded down to your team. So if your goals for 2026 is to hit 750,000 in revenue, okay, that's your goal. You're going to have, sub goals underneath that. How does your team contribute to that? And then you think about it in that way, and then you create goals for your team to be able to track towards. And this is everyone heading towards the same $750 million or $750,000 goal. So with that, it doesn't have to be super complicated, right? We're not talking about corporate environments. We're talking about small businesses with teams that are, all hands on deck a lot of times and super scrappy, but making sure everyone's clear on where they're headed and then what they need to do to be able to hit their performance expectations. It's surprising how many companies don't set these expectations on the front end. And so there's no way to track towards it. And what that does for you as a founder is it leaves a lot of question marks, right? It's like, I think this person's performing well because this client likes them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Rather than making a decision based off of data. Like, hey, we had these goals set, they've exceeded these goals, they're killing it, right?
Yeah.
This is moving us towards that $750,000 goal. So those are some of the like people systems, but performance management, I think people think it's super complicated, and it's really not. It's just setting an expectation and goals on the front end, tracking it, having benchmarks to like check in with your team, see if they need any assistance, how they're doing, and making sure that they are kept in the loop throughout the entire process. And then obviously reassessing where you're at the end of that, whatever time frame it is, if it's a 6-month time frame for those goals or quarterly, and then resetting new goals so that everyone is tracking towards the same thing.
Yeah. No, that is helpful. So do you think one thing I heard just on the side is
Yeah.
someone said you should have quarterly business reviews. So each quarter you sit with the client, you look over, hey, this is how we helped you. This is what we need to improve. Is there any feedback you have for us? What can we do better? Just having a quick every quarter sit down with the client and the person who's working with them on your team, making sure you're aligned. I mean, how important would you say the quarterly business reviews and then also the performance management
Yeah.
meetings on the back end are for a growing business?
I would say
How?
you definitely need both, because your clients aren't gonna necessarily know all of the goals that have been set for your team.
Yeah.
So these are internal goals. They could be something related to create SOPs for all of your systems, for this given client so that we can duplicate it,
Yeah.
right? Um, that's something that I think is important too, because you're not just tracking all your client facing work, but also what work's being done on the business, and what's valuable to the business. So those are things that you need to kind of track on an individual basis internally, I would say. QBRs are really important. I think that it gives you so much insight and it allows you to serve your clients even better. So definitely something to do as well, but they don't have to be super complicated, is what I would say. I try to keep things as simple as possible for small teams. There's enough work to do, enough
Yeah.
work on our plates to do. So, but yeah.
And then at what threshold of revenue or
Mhm.
overall cultural fill does the
Mhm.
business have to be at where they're implementing these things? You know,
You could be, I mean, anytime you add someone to your team, you should be doing performance reviews with them. I think this is one of the bigger things that is a challenge for founders, specifically founders, because you've built this business.
yeah,
So forget that not everyone understands the little nuances you do about the business, or how to talk about it, or, you know, where to find things. And so as soon as you're thinking about even bringing someone on, or you have the thought like, I don't think I want this business to only be myself,
yeah,
you need to start thinking about how those systems will be implemented, and how you'll execute. So I would say even before you bring on your first person, you should start to think about how you plan to track their performance, how you're going to set goals, and really what is the reward system you have in place for your team for hitting certain milestones. But that's some of the work we do with our clients too, is like getting clarity on the front end around all of those things, so that, because by the time someone's ready to hire, they're like on fire. You probably know that.
yeah,
They're like, I needed this person like 2 weeks ago.
yes,
Well, if they needed that person 2 weeks ago, they probably don't have any systems in place for that person to be successful once they're brought on, because they're so overwhelmed.
yeah,
So,
yep,
yeah,
yep,
sooner than
yep.
people think.
That really is the story of most of our people's lives in business that we work with. I know you and I know, yeah, for sure.
Yep.
That's a hard place to be in, and
Yeah,
I completely understand how easy it is to get there.
me
Um,
too.
and
I've been
and
there myself.
yeah, exactly. And here's
Yeah.
something too that I've been thinking about in regard to that. I feel like we all get there even when we do have the right team. And even
Hmm.
when we are doing the right systems, there's
Yep.
still times where we're going to get overwhelmed. And that doesn't
Yep.
mean we're failing. It just is a part of
No.
the ebb and flow of being an entrepreneur, right? And then maybe depending on the timing of where things are at, it's time to pivot and try something else, or
Yep.
delegate more, or get more intentional about specific things. So
Yep.
I think too, for those of us who have been there, or we have the things in place now, but we're still feeling the weight, or we're still feeling overwhelmed, might just be a time for a reset, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
that's okay too. Doesn't mean we're failing. Just means we're
No,
growing and we're learning and things are shifting, and that's normal. Hmm,
I feel
for
like I
sure.
do that like every 2 weeks probably. Like, hold on, today you're burning burning the wick at both ends, and you've got to kind of bring it down. So, yeah,
Yeah.
pivoting is part of small business ownership.
Yeah. And especially as a mom.
Yeah, you add that layer, and it's a whole different thing.
Yeah. Well, I want to wrap this up because I know we're at our time. Just give me one quick piece of advice for the mompreneur who is in her business. She's built it, she's grown it. It's her baby, but she also has her own babies.
Hmm.
And she's thinking, can I even do this anymore? You know,
Hmm.
this is
Hmm.
hard. What would you
Yep.
say to encourage that mom?
Yeah, I would say I've been there. I was there in June of 2025. I said that verbatim to my business partner. I was like, I don't know if this is sustainable for me with two kids. And what I would say is take that opportunity when you get to that point to really dig deep and think about what you want as an individual. So take being a mom aside. What do you want? And if you really want this business, start to think about how you're going to build the business in a way that will allow you to also take care of your motherly duties and be present for your kids, um, and go all in. There's this book, I think it's called Burn the Boat, but it's basically, burn all of the things that you have that you could turn back to, and just go full throttle. And so that's where I'm at. And since I've made that decision in June of 2025, I mean, we doubled revenue just because we decided to go all in and make this happen. So hopefully some encouragement to some moms out there. It's definitely possible, but it's not going to be easy. And so buckle up and give yourself grace.
Yeah, no, I love that. Thank you so
Yeah,
much. Thank you for being on the show.
of course. Thanks for
And,
having me.
for everyone listening, thanks for hanging out with us today on Mompreneurs Making Moves. And if you found a little encouragement or just felt seen or heard, make sure to share with your mompreneur friends. And remember that every small step you take in your business and in your life matters. And you're absolutely not alone on this journey. So keep showing up, keep making moves, and don't forget to take care of yourself too. And we'll see you next time. Make sure to follow us at Mompreneurs Making Moves on Facebook and Instagram. And you can watch this full interview on our YouTube channel at Mompreneurs Making Moves Official. Thank you again, Danae. And
Yes.
for those who want to connect with her, her information will be linked below the episode.
Awesome.